Of course, I was muted. Hi, it's 4 p.m. here in Berlin, or 4:02 now. My name is Jurasi. I'm a software engineer, and in this channel, Telemetry Drops, I bring once every couple of weeks for you some specific content about OpenTelemetry, monitoring, observability. My focus is on OpenTelemetry, so this is what we try to cover every couple of weeks. Every couple of weeks we do this one here in English, and every couple of weeks we do it in Portuguese. So we do it every other week is one language. Now the topic for today is Weaver. So we're going to talk a little bit about Weaver. We had an episode about Weaver with Josh. So Josh is one of the maintainers of Weaver. So go back and take a look at that episode where Josh gave a very good overview of Weaver. In this one here, I'm going to show you in practice how Weaver works. I prepared a demo here for you. It is part of the training that we have on OpenTelemetry, so telemetrydrops.com, and we just finished recording the Weaver modules for the OpenTelemetry specialization for the track, OpenTelemetry track, so OTel track, as part of Telemetry Drops. The code that we're going to see today is based on the training. All right, so it is open source. You can take a look at Telemetry Drops on GitHub/OTel in practice with dashes between the words. And in that repository, we have Weaver for some time now, but we're gonna today look at the code that we have there and play around with Weaver a little bit. So the first part of this live stream here today is on Weaver on its own, like what is Weaver, what kind of problems does it solve. The second part is we're going to take a look at the Weaver files, and the third part is we're going to take a look at some of the tooling around Weaver to generate code and to verify telemetry, both the manifest, both the registry and live check the telemetry that is flowing through a pipeline. Yeah, so perhaps starting over a little bit, my name is Jurasi, I'm a software engineer, and every couple of weeks we have this channel here. So in this channel, we cover OpenTelemetry, but this is, I have again, a training, telemetrydrops.com, where we provide this content for people who want to become an expert in OpenTelemetry. I'm also a community member of OpenTelemetry, and I've been doing OpenTelemetry for a while now, since 2015. And this is one of the reasons why I have this channel. So it all started as a hobby a few years ago. I saw that in Portuguese, at least, there was no very good content, very up-to-date content, not very accurate content in Portuguese. So I decided to start a channel in Portuguese. That's Telemetry Drops, but in Portuguese, Dose de Telemetria. And then we started this version here in English last year, when we saw that we could also bring some value to non-Portuguese speaking people, I think. And since then, we've been doing every week a different language. A couple of words before we start. So the CFP for Observability Day is still there. So for KubeCon, it's not there anymore. So for KubeCon, it's closed. But for Observability Day, I think it is still there. There are a few other events that you should be taking a look at. So Signals conference here in Berlin is taking place in September. The tickets are available, so go there. Signals Conf Berlin, take a look. The tickets are available now. If you need a discount code, come talk to me. I have a discount code for you. Yeah, and a couple of other things as well. We had a hotel night in Amsterdam a couple of weeks, or now I think it is already 1 month ago, and it was a great event. We had it hosted at the ING in Amsterdam, and we had a couple of talks, one from ING themselves and one from Albert Heijn, where they've shown us how to use the collector, how they use OpenTelemetry in general, but more specifically, how the platform engineering teams are deploying collectors there at scale. Very interesting talks. I like hotel nights because of that. So people can go there, and typically end users, they go there and they show us how they are actually using OpenTelemetry. The next one is in New York in a few weeks' time, so 25th or 26th of June in New York at the New York Times building, New York's New York Times Tower, I think it is called. And we're going to have a talk by folks from the New York Times and Bloomberg. So if you are in New York on that week, make sure to grab a seat and join the event there. It's not recorded. We usually don't record, and the content is only for those who attend those events. That's what makes it also very special. So if you we share things that we don't usually share when we are being recorded. So this is one of the good things about Hotel Night as well. I'm going to be in San Francisco in a couple of weeks' time as well. So if you are in the Bay Area, if you are in San Francisco or Palo Alto, Mountain View, get in touch with me. I'll be there on the week of the 15th. So as part of Holy Garden here, I'm gonna join the Gemini Startup Forum in San Francisco. I think it is 16th and 17th of June, but I'm gonna be there on the Monday before, and in Mountain View in Palo Alto, and then in San Francisco for the Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday as well. Right. So if you are there, ping me and let's have a coffee. Let's have I don't know, lunch or something together. And talking about Holy Garden, so this channel here is not tied to Holy Garden in any way. Of course, there is a Holy Garden logo here because this is what I've been focusing on for most of the week. But this channel here is not tied to any specific vendor, not specific companies, right? So this is here really focused on OpenTelemetry, and this is the main point for this project here for Telemetry Drops. All right, I think I had, oh yes, Hotel Drops. Something else that I wanted to share with you before we actually get our hands on Weaver is every week on a Sunday morning, I publish a podcast called Hotel Drops. So go on Spotify. On Spotify, you can go, you can search for Hotel Drops. And that's a podcast completely AI generated. I'm doing that for myself. I need a way to keep myself up to date when it comes to the developments of the OpenTelemetry community. So it's not about the blog posts or things that are external, but related to OpenTelemetry. It is really what are the developments from within the community. So what are the new versions of the new components of OpenTelemetry? What are the new project donation proposals? What's new in the OpenTelemetry project? And that's the main focus for Hotel Drops. Take a look. Again, I generated for myself. I use AI to assemble all of that information and package it as a podcast for myself. If you like it, if you enjoy it, let me know. Tell me. I need to hear your feedback. I really do. All right. So there it is. Let me see if I can share my screen now with you all, and then we can see. Let me share a window with my code editor, this one here, and let's see. Cool. Let me see if this is working. Is it working? Can you see my screen? I hope you can. Cool. All right. Oh, let me see screen. My screen can handle. Maybe the device can handle this one. This one. There you go. Cool. All right. Cool. Let me see. I think it's better if I do this way. Okay. Cool. But then I also want to add myself in here. Okay, cool. Now it works. Wonderful. All right, so let's get started with Weaver. But actually, before we do that, let me stop sharing my screen again. Hide. Yes, there you go. Cool. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what is Weaver and what does it exist and what kind of problems does it solve. First part of the live stream, right? So let's try to get this everything here done in less than 20 minutes, so you can have a good overview of Weaver in 20 minutes. All right. So the main problem is once we start instrumenting our services. So once we start using the OpenTelemetry API to instrument our applications, we typically get into a situation where a developer comes up with a specific name for a specific thing, like customer ID, or in our case, organization ID in case of Holy Garden. So when I was doing the first services for Holy Garden, I instrumented the services and I used org.id as one of the attributes for the telemetry that we are generating. Now, for the next service, though, at some point I renamed to organization.id. And the older services, they were still on org ID. right? So we have now two names for the same thing, org.id and organization.id. Now, when new developers come in, they might use just organization for that, or they might use, I think the last version that we have is svcctx, like service context, .org.id or .organization. And suddenly we have 4 or 5 different names for the same thing. So what Weaver does is Weaver allows us to have an internal semantic conventions for our telemetry so that we can specify on our own semantic conventions so that we can then generate some code and we can use that generated code to enforce or to make it our lives easier when we need to instrument our code. Now, Weaver also provides some tooling that we can use to verify that we are indeed generating only the telemetry that is being specified. And that's what I'm going to show you in the third part of this video here. Now, Weaver is still quite experimental, but Weaver is being used right now, today, to generate OpenTelemetry official semantic conventions. So whenever you go to OpenTelemetry.io and you go to the semantic conventions, you're going to see pages that are generated by Weaver. So Weaver is being used internally at OpenTelemetry to define the semantic conventions. But Weaver is meant to be a tool that is that you can use in your organization to define your semantic conventions, so that your teams can make use of the same tooling and can create those conventions, and not only create those conventions but follow those conventions internally as well. Right. So it's not only about having a wiki page with your conventions and nobody reading, nobody following. It's really about enforcing as well. Right, so that's the main idea for Weaver. Weaver allows you to define the internal semantic conventions for your company and have your developers follow it. Cool. All right, so how do I get started? And it's very easy. Let me now unhide my screen. So show my screen. There you go. Cool. All right, so what we have here, let me change here the page. There you go. Cool. All right, so the main file, again, this is the hotel in practice repository, and within that we have the stage 1 monolith. If you've been following us here, then you know this repository already. And within the stage 1 monolith, we have our telemetry package, and within telemetry we have our registry. And within registry we have a few YAML files. The first one is the manifest, right? So the manifest is a special Weaver file. And we define what is the name of our semantic convention. So this is the e-commerce semantic conventions. And the description is telemetry conventions for the e-commerce monolith. So this is the e-commerce application for Telemetry Drops or for Acme. This is, of course, not a real store. We define what is the version of the semantic convention that we are creating. And this is version 010. And what is a schema URL? Like, what is the namespace for our schema? It doesn't really exist like this address here. It is really just to set the namespace for our schema. Now, with that, we have a valid registry already. And what we can do from here is we can define the shape of our telemetry. We can define the shape of our metrics, for instance. So here we go. We have the metrics.yaml at the same directory. And in there, we have what is the file format. So this is the definition /2. So this is just telling Weaver what is the type of this file, what is this file about. And this is a definition. I like to split the signals on one signal per file and then one specific for attributes. But that's me. You do you, right? So if you prefer everything in one file, that's fine. I think smaller files are easier to control. You can have multiple people changing those and not stepping into anyone's toes. In that case, I have one for metrics, one for spans, and one for attributes. So for the metrics, I have here a list of metrics, and I have the name of my metrics. And what I define here as well is what are the instruments. In that case, this is a histogram, and the unit is S, so it is seconds. A brief description, so this is end-to-end duration of the blah, blah, blah. And then stability. Stability is required. We have to specify what is the stability for our signals, in this case, for the metric, and which attributes this metric contains. We have a reference to the attributes, and this one, we can then go there into the attributes file, and we can see where it's defined. So we have here the key being defined as e-commerce.payment.method, and it is an enum, so we define as those here are the possible values for the payment methods. So it can be Apple Pay, it can be PayPal, it can be credit card, and this is a description, and this is a stability for the attribute. Similarly, we can have spends, and here we have the names. I typically don't like names like this, but for consistency with the metrics, let's use it like this. I would prefer like register user as the name of the span, but it's okay. It's fine to leave it like that. And if you don't know why you prefer register space user, then go to the blogs that to the blog post that we have there. There's one specific about naming spans. I published on the OpenTelemetry.io publication, and I published also, I think, part of the Garden blog or the Telemetry Drops blog. One of those has also this blog post. The main idea is we use verb space object. So the subject is, in this case here, the e-commerce application, but then we use like register user. Cool, all right. So that said, we have our signals defined here in those YAML files. Now, good. I defined my telemetry there, and what can I do with that? I have it all defined. What now? Now you can start doing very cool stuff like generating code out of it. And this is what we're gonna do now. We're gonna, so let's go to the stage 1. There you go, stage 1. And what I can do now is I can do Weaver, registry, generate. I think this is the one. Okay, cool. So Weaver registry generate. And then I'm gonna pass what is the registry. In that case, it is this directory that we have here. I'm going to specify what are the templates. Oh, we haven't seen the templates yet. I'm going to show you the templates. And then we say that it's a Go is the destination. So Go is the target, and it should generate under the internal telemetry directory. So internal, where is internal? Internal telemetry. Cool. Let me show you the templates before we go there. So the templates are Jinja templates, and we are here in the registry. We are here generating Go files, and within Go we have a few things. One thing that we have is a Weaver.yaml, and this here defines the templates that we have, some configuration for the generators, like which acronyms we have there, how do we do comments for Go, and this is how we do comments for Go, what is the package name, and a list of the templates, right? So we have here a template for attributes, and those are the semantic conventions, grouped attributes, and so on and so forth. Just come in here, copy and paste, and you can use the same or similar. In this case here, we have a Jinja2 template for metrics, and what we do here is it is metrics.go, and we have a comment here saying do not edit. This is generated by Weaver. And then for each group in the context, and then for each metric in the group, then we generate two constants. One is the metric name followed by suffix name with the metric name, of course. And the other one is metric name with the suffix unit, with the unit being represented here. So this is it. And once we generate code, it's gonna generate using this template here. We have a similar thing for spans and for attributes. And once we have all of those templates in place, what we can do now is we can generate some code. Now, don't be scared about this diagnostic report. This is basically just saying, this is not stable yet, this is fine. Cool, all right, so we have now some files generated here under the telemetry package within internal of our monolith, and this is attributes gen. And we can see, let's open the metrics, because that's what we went through. All right, so we have here then a const block with the e-commerce orders active name and unit. All right, so this is, we can relate it to the template that we had there. Of course, the next stage here is for us to do a Go format, and then we have here this file being a little bit better formatted. Now, what we can do with this is in our code, we can then, whenever we generate a new counter, or up and down counter, for instance, in this case, instead of having instead of naming that manually, instead of having a string here with the name of the metric, we now have a constant. And why is it better? Because if I make a typo on the metric name here and I reuse, perhaps not the metric, but if I reuse the attribute in different places, then instead of having a typo in one of those definitions, I now have a constant. So in all of the places that I use the same attribute, I'm using the same name, I'm using the same units, it's very consistent now. And it is not only consistent across languages, not only across my package, but if I have this registry as part of a library internal to my company, I can have it spit out Go, Java, JavaScript, and so on. So every single application in my company can make use of constants for the same attribute names and for the same metric names very consistently throughout my whole organization. So it's very hard for people to make mistakes when it comes to typos and so on. When we have it all defined in a central registry. Of course, central registries, they're good for things that are common across the whole company. And ideally, each team would also have its own Weaver registry that is shared across the applications for that specific group. And perhaps even each repository would have its own smaller set of attributes and metric names. So its own smaller Weaver registry. And what we can do then is, in our manifest file, we can define dependencies. So my application depends on my group's semantic conventions, which depends on my company's semantic conventions, which then perhaps depends on OpenTelemetry's semantic conventions. So we can have a hierarchy of the registries in there. All right, cool. Now I generated some code. What can I do with Weaver in addition to that? So we've seen, making a quick recap, we've seen what is Weaver, how we define registries in Weaver, and how we generate some Go code with Weaver. And the same way we could be generating other code like Java, JavaScript, Python, Ruby, and so on. Now, what we can do now is we can use the same registry to verify a few things. First, let's use Weaver to verify that the registry that we have is actually a valid registry, right? So let's do a Weaver registry check, and we're gonna verify. Okay, cool. So our registry is indeed a valid Weaver registry. And let's introduce a problem here. Let me comment out like this here, for instance. And if I do another check, then it tells, okay, so this one here, missing required property stability. Right? So I think it is missing something. So looking at the message here, it's hard to see where it is missing, but I know this is one here. So perhaps a bug report is following through Weaver. But what we can do now is recheck and everything is working again, right? So this shows one of the things from Weaver. Stability is one of the things that is required for every single signal that we have defined in a Weaver file. The stability tells the consumers of that information, so both whoever is defining the metric or the span in this case, and whoever is consuming at the dashboard or alert level, it is the contract between both. So you are telling the name or the shape of this span is not changing; it is stable. So you can create dashboards. You can create alerts that depend on this one specific metric, on this one specific attribute, and know that this is not going to change without a path forward, without a way to migrate to a new name if it comes to be. Right? Cool. All right. But this is very meta. So this is Weaver checking Weaver registry. So this is cool. It should be part of your CI, but this is not on its own a goal, right? What is then a goal? What I like as well is to have a diff of the registries. So let's say that I'm changing the repository, this one here. Let's change this span name from register to, I don't know, to register user. I know it's redundant. We have a user here already. So, but let's use it like this. And what we're going to do here is we're going to let me change this one here as well. And what we're going to do is I have a copy of my registry under the local directory. So I copied just before our live stream. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the local as the baseline, and what we have defined here as the new version. And we're going to do a diff between them. Right? So Weaver registry diff with the baseline being the local and the registry being the one that we are changing here. And we want a diff in Markdown. All right, so what we are doing here is we can see this diff, and we see that we have this register user being added, and this one here being removed. So we see very clearly the diff between two versions of the registry. Now, this is useful because at CI time, perhaps I can verify that a new version of the registry doesn't break existing telemetry. So I can see that if I do this change here, if I apply this change, perhaps I need to change my alerts. Perhaps I need to change my dashboards. And I can block, at the CI level, I can block the merging of this pull request if it comes to me. Right? So diff between versions is very useful. It can help me make informed decisions when it comes to my registry. Cool. Let's reset the change here. So actually, let me just do this. Cool. There you go. All right. So let's do another check. Okay. So now it worked. Oh, not only the check, but the diff. So no changes when it comes to the local and the committed versions. Cool. Now, the third thing that I wanted to show you all is live check. Live check, I think, is very cool. What we can do here is, let me open a couple of other terminals. 1, 2, perhaps 3 more. And on the first one, we're going to do a Weaver registry live check. I'm not going to start it right now. What I'm going to do is, on this one here, I'm going to start Docker Compose up. Because we are not in the stage 1 monolith, okay, Docker Compose up. So we are starting a database. We're starting a LGTM stack here to receive our telemetry. And on this one here, we can do it on a monolith, stage 1, and go run our application. There you go. So our application is not running. And what we can do is we have here a README with some commands that we can run. This one, and then we can just, okay, this one here should be enough. And then we run this one. We also run the same for users, perhaps. Cool. And what we can see is, let's see if I can then open our localhost. Yeah, this is going to be hard to show. Let me see if I can open it here. Browser, internet browser. There you go. Cool. All right. So localhost 3000. So we can see here that we have some telemetry from our application. So explore. Let's explore traces, and then on search we can find one of them that was generated just a minute ago. Right. So this is the users. We see. Let me see if I can decrease here a little bit. It's painful, isn't it? Oh yeah, but it's here. So the trace is here. We have the trace that represents that call that we've made. I think it is for users. So it is this call here, right? So we have the trace. So we can see that the telemetry from our application is going to our backend. But what I can also show you is Weaver also could be receiving this telemetry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the Weaver live check. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change our hotel.yaml. I actually am sending the data for Weaver. Cool. All right. So what I've done is I have OpenTelemetry SDK configured using the declarative config, and some data is going to my local LGTM stack, and the other one is going to 5317 OTLP gRPC. This is Weaver. I have Weaver here running on 5317, and just so happens that we received a metrics package on Weaver. Right, so an exemplar at blah, blah, blah. And what we can see here is Weaver already generated some violations for us. it told us that, oh, this is a violation. Attribute HTTP request method does not exist in the registry. Why is it happening? It's because I'm not specifying in my registry file, I'm not specifying manifest. I'm not specifying that I depend on OpenTelemetry semantic conventions. So I can see that most of the things in here, they are related to the semantic conventions from OTel itself. Let me open some space in here, and then we can, again, call users, and we can then see some of the things related to spans, right? So we have a span name, so green, so it's internal, it's good, improvement, but we see a violation, right? So this is, and then again, span, they get this one here, and then in there we see all of the violations in here. And that's pretty much it. So you can have the live check running in your staging, or you can have the live check running during the tests in your CI/CD as well. So in your CI, you could be running the live check while the tests run for your application, and your SDK would be configured to send data to the live check endpoint, and the live check would generate the violations for you. And let me go back to you so I can look at you and hide. Cool. So this is Weaver in just about 20 minutes or half an hour for you. We started by talking a little bit about what are the problems that Weaver solve, what is the difficulty that we had before Weaver, how we define a manifest, how we define metrics, spans, and attributes, and how we use them to generate code so that we can make references to that one when we are instrumenting our own applications. And at the end, we saw how we can use the same registries that we use to generate code, how we can use them to verify that telemetry that we are generating is actually the telemetry that we expect to be generating. That's pretty much all that I had for today, that I had planned for today. I don't see any questions here in the chats, but if you do have questions, leave a comment either on a video or on LinkedIn or YouTube. And if you don't know yet, we have a Telegram channel, t.me/Telemetry Drops. Leave your question there as well. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have about Weaver or in OpenTelemetry in general. And with that, thank you very much for staying here for this last half an hour, and see you again in a couple of weeks' time.